Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Tonight we're going to talk about vegan activism in the mainstream news and Joey Carbstrong. You may not know who he is, but we'll talk a little bit about that and how he is bringing a profile to veganism in the mainstream news. Before we do though, I want to mention that veganism is growing really fast. It looks like now in the United States, about 6% of the population identify as vegan. That's way up from 0.5% to 1%, which was the number I was aware of. And if the number is correct, if you add in all the countries around the world, it's likely that over the course of this video that I'm producing for you right now, more than 200 people will go vegan. So I'm going to put that little counter up there. You can check that out as we go through the video. So let's just get right in on this. YouTuber and animal activist Joey Carbstrong has uploaded a video to YouTube claiming that he needs to defend himself against the mainstream media. Take a look.
I decided to make a video in response to the media tirade that they have launched again on me this morning.
Now, according to Joey, the media has been researching all his past posts and videos and using these against him.
Now, what the media have done is they've gone through old posts of mine from 2015, 2016.
The headlines are really focusing in on his comparison between dairy farmers and Hitler, which he does acknowledge that he has said in the past, but has no intention of using that rhetoric in the future.
Now, peaceful vegan activist Joey Carbstrong compared dairy farmers to Hitler and told them to kill themselves. And in retrospect, you know, it was a bad thing to say.
Now, this whole so-called media tirade stems from an appearance he made on a morning show in Australia where he debated some dairy farmers. Take a look.
The word rapist, to use that word for inseminating a cow, I feel is wrong.
So you think that being called a rapist is immoral, but the act of sticking your hand inside of a cow without their consent isn't immoral?
I think it's important to talk about the terminology here because there are three words that are consistent in a lot of these comments from vegan activists. Yeah. Rape, murder and slavery. Okay. Now these are words that first of all are fairly inaccurate when applied to our farming practices.
Now, sadly, the debate focused mainly on terminology like murder, slavery, and rape, as opposed to focusing in on the positive and practical reasons why one would go vegan. Now, there were times in the interview where Joey was able to get in those points about why people go vegan, such as health and environment, but those were far and few between.
It's unnecessary to eat meat to be healthy. Okay, we can be healthy and healthier eating plant-based foods. We don't need them to survive or to be healthy. We can eat plants.
And these are the arguments that I keep making on my channel, that the best way to encourage people to go vegan is to appeal to what means something to them, their health, their environment. These are things that are tangible to people and usually are more effective at making change, in my opinion. Now, there's been a lot of reaction to this on social media, including Shieff. If you don't know who this guy is, he's an amazing athlete, and I'll leave some links for you in the description box if you want to check him out. Now, Tim doesn't directly criticize Joey, but he does caution activists in general to sort of think about their messaging.
But there's one thing I wanted to speak on real quick, because I've seen the veganism getting a lot more attention in the UK media recently, and I see a lot of activists speaking, and I just want to make sure that we're doing it right. We've got to be really intelligent about our approach.
Tim seems to be concerned that using trigger words like murder and slavery create a debate dynamic that undermines effective messaging.
And if we're using these words, which are trigger words, which will automatically put people on the defensive, you've got to understand that you're just creating a debate, and you can't get to someone through debate with this.
So let me share my personal view on this, and also I want you guys to weigh in by leaving a comment. And don't forget to engage in this video by leaving a thumbs up or a thumbs down if that's how you feel. First of all, I am not a vegan activist, so kudos to Joey and any other vegan activists who put their neck on the line every day for animal activism. It's very easy to criticize from the sidelines, so my weigh in on this is obviously delivered with the greatest level of respect. I have to say that as an older vegan, I prefer the ideas of working within the system democratically, and I don't think that it's just vegans who understand the arguments for not eating so much meat. Ra Gozia, a vegan mathematician from Australia, also weighs in and sort of seems to align with how I feel about the whole thing. Take a listen.
I think it's fair to say that the younger people tend to adopt this more militant approach, and those older blokes like me, we have just slightly different worldview on things. Having said that, there is understanding that there is place for everything, because you've got to be able to collaborate with all sorts of people in the vegan network.
And vegan YouTuber Dumb Vegan also weighed in on this when asked in a live stream recently on YouTube.
I think inside all vegans, like, we really do understand like where the militants are coming from, because we have chosen this lifestyle for the same reasons that they have. At the same time, how long can our reason and our logic, hold out before we say, well, there's no way I can be part of that approach.
But I also recognize there isn't just one way to make a point. I 100% condemn violent approach to any sort of activism, not just vegan activism. And I really respect Joey for articulating this in his video. If you haven't checked out Joey Carbstrong's channel, then I recommend you do, and I'll link the channel down below in the description box. I have watched a number of his videos. I find them a little bit combative and pugnacious. I find them entertaining, and I also find that they are effective in many ways. There are times when I'm watching the videos and they make me feel uncomfortable. I'm sure that many people can relate to that, but maybe that's the whole point. I also understand where Tim Shieff is coming from. His point is well taken. This is 2018. People know what's happening in the factory farms. This isn't 2010 when people really didn't know what was happening. And there is so much headway we can make when it comes to the arguments around environmentalism and health that isn't necessary with the conversations with non-vegans to get right into the sort of rhetoric and the words that we all may understand to be true, but that's really harsh on the ear of someone who's never really thought these ideas through before. Now, one of the things that disappointed me the most about watching this interview was that there was so little time dedicated to talking about the reasons why one should go vegan, and all the focus seemed to be on terminology and comparisons. It would have been really nice if they could have focused on some statistics showing how going vegan can help people's lives. It can reduce diabetes, it can reduce obesity, it can reduce some of the problems around environmental crises. And I was sort of left to wonder what the social benefit was of that interview. And kudos to Joey, this is not his fault, but he was sort of being beaten up on, and the conversation never really got to that place where the average person in Australia who was watching that show that morning could be left with at least one piece of information where they could go home and maybe apply that to their family and make some change that benefits their health and the environment. Instead, they were sort of subjected to this sort of highbrow conversation about the appropriate terminology when it comes to vegan activism. And I just don't think that resonates with the average person. In fact, I'm certain it doesn't resonate with most people. This is all about know your audience, right? And I just don't think that that was the audience for that kind of a conversation. And of course, the more we use these terms, the more it arms people, and when we go to have the conversations and we have the audience, that's exactly what they go to first. They talk about those terms as opposed to really talking about the benefits of going vegan. That 10-minute piece on TV was precious. 10 minutes just isn't enough time to get to a place where we can be talking like that. We need to first talk about how veganism can benefit people sort of on an individual basis and as a family and a community. And then eventually, as you start understanding that and agreeing with it, you can then sort of delve into the ethical issues, which is, I think, for a lot of people, that's going to be secondary. For many of us who, as I said before, have drank the Kool-Aid, it is primary. But for most people, it's not going to be primary. And we have to keep that in mind when we're talking to various audiences. I support all activism, great and small, so long as it's done peacefully. Now, do I think it's appropriate to be using words like murder and slavery in a conversation about veganism with a non-vegan? Well, maybe not at first, and maybe never, I don't know. But I think that it's about knowing our audience. One thing I will say, though, is that veganism is about ethics. And at some point, that conversation does need to occur. How it's done and the words that are used, I don't know, that's going to vary from person to person. At the end of the day, I need to be me, you need to be you, and I think the message can go out in many different ways. All right, guys, there's the video for today, so please weigh in down below. What do you think the best form of animal activism is? Please engage this video with a thumbs up or a thumbs down, depending on how you feel. And if you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Why haven't you subscribed yet to the Plain Eats YouTube channel? Press that little subscribe button down below, as well as the little bell icon next to it for notifications of all my uploads to YouTube. Also, a nice way for us to stay connected in between YouTube uploads, I post regularly to Instagram. So my links to Instagram as well as Twitter are down below. Start following me today, and I look forward to seeing you all very soon for another super fresh video.